Today I thought I'd review the 37 miracles of Jesus, but if you read the book of John, John tells you that he couldn't get all of the miracles that Jesus did into just that book alone. So these are just the 37 documented ones. If you read, you'll see Jesus did many, many more as is stated. But the first one, Jesus turns water into wine. That's John 2, 1 through 11. Jesus heals an official's son. That's John 4, 43 through 54. Jesus drives out an evil spirit. This is in Mark and Luke. I will just tell you the one in Mark is chapter 1, verses 21 through 27. Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law. This is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I will tell you the Matthew verse, chapter 8, 14 through 15. Jesus heals many sick at evening. This is also in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And this is in chapter 8, 16 through 17 in Matthew. First miraculous catch of fish. That is in Luke, 5th chapter, 1 through 11. Jesus cleanses a man with leprosy. This is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In the 8th chapter, the 1st through the 4th verse for Matthew. Jesus heals a centurion's servant. That's in Matthew and Luke. In Luke, it's in the 7th chapter, the 1st through the 10th verse. Jesus heals a paralytic. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In the book of Matthew, it's chapter 9, verses 1 through 8. Jesus heals a man's withered hand. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Matthew, it's the 12th chapter, the 9th through the 14th verse. And when you read that one, see the Pharisees' reactions. Oh my goodness. Jesus raises a widow's son in Nain. That's in Luke chapter 7, 11 through 17. Jesus calms a storm. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Matthew, the 8th chapter, 23rd through 27th verse. Jesus casts demons into a herd of pigs. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Matthew 8, chapter 28 through 33rd verse. Jesus heals a woman in the crowd. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Matthew, that's chapter 9, verses 20 through 22. Jesus raises Jairus' daughter to life. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Matthew 9, chapter 9, verse 18 and verses 23 through 26. Jesus heals two blind men. That's in Matthew 9, 27 through 31. Jesus heals a man unable to speak. Chapter 9, verses 32 through 34. That's also only in Matthew. Jesus heals an invalid invalid at Bethesda. That's in John, chapter 5, 1 through 15. Jesus feeds 5,000, and it's actually more than 5,000, but that's in all the Gospels, and we'll just say in John chapter 6, 1 through 15. Jesus walks on water. That's in Matthew and Mark and John. And in Mark, it is chapter 6, 45 through 52. Jesus heals many sick in Gennesaret. That's in Matthew and Mark. And in Matthew, that's chapter 14, 34 through 36 verse. Jesus heals a gentlewoman's demon-possessed daughter. That's in Matthew and Mark. And Matthew is chapter 15, 21 through 28 verse. Jesus heals a deaf and dumb man. That's in the book of Mark, chapter 7, 31 through 37. Jesus feeds 4,000. That's in Matthew and Mark. In Matthew, it's chapter 15, verses 32 through 39. Jesus heals a blind man at Bethsaida. That is Mark, chapter 8, 22 through 26 verse. Jesus heals a man born blind. That's in the book of John, chapter 9, 1 through 12. Jesus heals a boy with a demon. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And if you're looking at Matthew, it's chapter 17, 14 through 20. Miraculous temple tax in a fish's mouth. That's only in Matthew, chapter 17, 24 through 27. Jesus heals a blind, mute, demoniac That's in Matthew and Luke. And if you're in Luke, it's chapter 11, 14 through 23. Jesus heals a crippled woman. That's only in Luke chapter 13, 10 through 17. Jesus heals a man with dropsy on the Sabbath. That's only in Luke chapter 14, 1 through 6. Jesus cleanses 10 lepers. That's in Luke chapter 17, 11 through 19. Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. The glory of God. That's chapter 11, 1 through 45. Jesus restores sight. Oh, and that's in the book of John. I'm sorry. Jesus restores sight to Bartimaeus. That's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. If you're looking at Matthew, it's chapter 20, 29 through 34th verse. Jesus withers the fig tree. That's in Matthew and Mark. In Matthew, it's chapter 21, 18 through 22. Jesus heals a servant's severed ear. That is in Luke 22, 50 through 51. Peter. Second miraculous catch of fish. That's in John chapter 21, 4 through 11. Those are the 37 miracles of Jesus, pretty much in order, but also chronological order, but also they're not all that he did. Those are the ones that are documented. Like I said, if you read the book of John, John states that he couldn't put everything that Jesus did into a book. He said it just was so much that he did. So although these are the ones that we know, just think of all the other ones that he did willingly and freely because he loved us and he wanted us to know Christ, see God's power, and see what you can do when you have proper faith, and see what can happen to you when you have true faith. The Lord is good to me all the time. He is good to you all the time. There used to be a song that said, "The Lord is good to me, and so I thank the Lord for giving me the things I need, the sun and the rain and the apple seed. The Lord is good to me." Amen. I used to sing it as a camp counselor when I was younger, but we should realize that even waking up is a miracle. Even moving our hand like this is a miracle. Blinking them eyes, miracle. Because you don't know how all this stuff on the inside stays in with just this small piece of skin. You don't know how that brain sits there and functions. There are so many things that we don't know and man tries to explain. But sometimes you just gotta give God his due and say, we can't explain it. It's just the grace and mercy of the Lord and the miracle that is with his power that he wills, and we accept it. And that is called faith. Amen. Thank you.